Hi everyone. Thank you so much for finding us on your favorite podcast app and or YouTube. My name is Joe Lee with Faith Wilson, Christie's International Real Estate.
And my name is Jeff Chan, also licensed with Faith Wilson, Christie's International Real Estate.
And starting from today, we're also known as the Mike for Vancouver Real Estate.
What's up, Joe?
Jeff.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. New week,
Yeah.
new podcast.
And new weather. It seems like it's definitely chillier this week than it has been in the last 2 weeks.
You might see me in this position for the whole podcast today because
Yeah.
not that I'm trying to make distance from you, but yeah, it's getting pretty cold.
Yeah, fall is here.
Fall is definitely here.
Well, like you said, new week, new podcast, and thank you for all our listeners and subscribers for the emails that you've been sending us about topics you'd like to hear more about. Without you, we wouldn't have today's topic.
Exactly.
The common theme that we've been hearing from you is like, hey, Joe, you've had so much experience in the pre-sale market. Why have you guys not done an episode about pre-sales? In today's market, you know, where we've have inventory shortages, buyers and sellers having trouble coming to terms on price, things like that. And like, you know, there's pre-sale projects coming up in every single city. Like, why have you guys not talked about that? Like, I need to know, or I want to know, is this the right project for me?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Joe Lee, 12 years of pre-sale experience, sales director at one of the big names, top 2% realtor in the Greater Vancouver area. I think you're more than qualified to share with us your experience and opinion about pre-sales. So that's what we're going to talk about for our podcast for the day. Now, I think, Joe, you agree, we could probably do a 6-episode segment about pre-sales alone.
Yeah.
Nobody has time for that, at least not today.
Yeah.
So we're kind of just going to go over the key points that Joe and I feel like we should cover in helping our listeners determine whether or not a pre-sale is right for you, or are you more catered towards the resale market, which is the general public. Does this sound about right?
Sounds about right. How I'm taking it is for today's podcast, I'm literally debating between myself, Joe 2022 versus Joe before 2022. I mean, before 2020, sorry, before 2020.
Past Joe against present Joe.
That's
I like
right,
that.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
mean, not too long ago, I remember you kind of telling me about your most recent pre-sale development that was coming up and how great it was going to be. And I think that project did turn out to be a success. And then, you know, a number of our friends and clients have bought pre-sales in the past and all are very, very happy. So,
oh, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And we'll touch base on that as well, why so many of our friends who are mostly for first-time home buyers, at that time elected to go into the pre-sale route instead of the resale route. And then again, these are several years ago, maybe in today's landscape, the things will change a little bit, but we'll cover everything.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, then first question, what is a resale?
Yeah, I mean, resale obviously is just when you're buying into a existing home. And obviously when people kind of contact you, Jeff, saying, hey, I'm looking for a home, and this is kind of the home that you would assume that people are thinking about.
Yeah, we see something on the MLS, the age of the home might be 7 years, 10 years, and yeah, we go and see the property together, we go on a tour for the day, whole shebang.
Exactly, and the reason why people kind of go, like start with the resale is because most people, when they're looking for a home, they're not thinking about, oh, like this is something I'm looking 5-6 years down the road. They're looking for at least the foreseeable future, right? Because most people, they can't think that far out.
Yeah.
Right? So, and when they start looking for homes, they want to be able to, you know, use all their senses, right? I guess that's kind of the benefit of resale, and that's why people kind of lean towards that direction. Are you counting about your senses?
Sorry, sometimes there's lose track, so you know, see, hear, touch. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. So like, for example, you go to an open house, you walk into a home, you could use all your senses. You could literally see how big the home is and what exposure. You can feel the cabinetry, you know, feel the quality is like, is this loose? You can feel everything out. You can even smell, like, you know, smell the home. Maybe it's, you know, some sort of fragrance. Maybe they have, I don't know, like a garbage disposal around the area. Like you'll be able to kind of figure everything out.
Yeah, maybe they're next to the UBC Botanical Gardens.
Exactly, exactly. And obviously you'll be able to kind of just like feel the whole house out. Does this home jive with you and what your needs are?
Okay.
And another reason why some people like the resale, obviously, what I previously mentioned, is the foreseeable future, right? What is the shortest completion there's the deal that we
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
From buying to move, to completion is 3 weeks. The longest one I have that's not commercial generally is much longer, it's 4 months, which is still enough time to be like, okay, I can see myself 4 months from now. Like, where am I gonna do? Where am I gonna be? And stuff like that. So that's the reason why some people say, okay, I wanna go into kind of the resale route automatically when they say they wanna start looking for homes, right? I guess, and another way is, one last thing about resale, but this doesn't apply to all of it, is that sometimes they want to buy resale because they understand that that's probably a more established neighborhood. There's not going to be any further constructions that's coming in. Now, once again, this is project to project, but in generality, when people say they want to look for resale, nobody wants to look for resale and then look right at a construction zone. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah, so that's kind of the reason why I think people would tend to go into resale.
Well, what about pre-sale? I mean, you mentioned that, back then, back in 2008, I remember you telling me this one time before, like the pricing was a little bit different.
That's right. And I guess that's one of the new things that why people will get into resale will be, you're absolutely right, price. So when I first initially joined the industry, what a great time, 2008, right before the economic crash.
Yeah, that's not something that happened in the stock market, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? No, but back in that time, I still remember that pre-sale prices was down here and then resale prices is about up here. And there's probably like a 10-15% variant a difference in terms of price. And the reason why there is such a pre-sales lower price, the way I pitched it back in the days is, look, you're coming in, you are putting all your faith on the developer and our construction team. You don't get the home in the foreseeable future. And then you also get basically a bunch of uncertainties, which we'll cover in a little bit, about this particular project. Things could move, things could change. And because of these reasons, that's why we're selling it to you for a little bit lower. Well, funny, just fast forward a little bit to about 7 years ago, pre-sale prices started to kind of come up and it's almost the same price as resale. I think obviously this has to do with government contributions, rising construction costs, rising labor shortage, laborers and stuff like that. So, and then however now in 2022, it's like pre-sale is up here and resale is here. So of course, when pre-sale now is like, 10-20% higher than resale, it will start to kind of push people kind of into the resale route.
Yeah.
Especially, for example, first-time home buyers. They're already tight on cash, and you're telling them that I have to pay more for something brand new, for something maybe even smaller. It's okay. You know what? I'll go buy a resale. If it's a little bit more beat up, I'll spend a little bit more money on the renovation. At least it won't be in the same price as, for example, a pre-sale around the same neighborhood.
Okay. Well, what about a pre-sale? Why would people go for pre-sales?
No, great. I mean, the reason why people want to get into pre-sale, the main reason that I heard is they just like things new. Who doesn't like things new? Right?
Yeah.
That's why most people like to buy new cars. We buy new shoes. We buy new pants. Right? That's one of the main reasons. And especially if that building is also in a new neighborhood. Right? For example, Brentwood 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why everybody loved to get into Brentwood. Like, who doesn't like a new mall? Who doesn't like a new amenities? Like, who doesn't like looking at new buildings?
Yeah.
It just it's easier on the eyes. Right? That's one reason. And another reason why some people might like to go pre-sale is because they get to customize their home with the developer.
Right, they got to pick their finishings.
Exactly. Now,
their floor plan.
With condos and townhouses, maybe there's a little bit less. You have dark or light color scheme. Nowadays, developers try to be more competitive. You have dark, middle, and light color scheme. And then you get to basically choose, okay, I want that one. You have more choices. You like to be on the 20th floor, or you like to be on the 4th floor. Right? You have choices, different exposures that you can kind of choose from. And that's the reason why some people like pre-sale. Like, what happens is, like, my feng shui master told me I have to face west. Well, instead of me going into individual buildings that's currently on the market that faces west, let's just get into a pre-sale and then let's just look at everything that faces west and then see which one is most beneficial for me or most suitable for me.
Yeah.
Right. Another reason why some people like to get into pre-sale has to do with all these new tech. that is not just inside of your house, but also outside your house. Couple of examples. Last year, there's a new developer. They introduced something brand new, which I thought was really cool to protect kind of the building's insurance and overall maintenance. Is that for all the pipings, they actually attach kind of like a Wi-Fi sensor, and then when the pipes is about to leak or it is leaking, then what the sensor will do is will start notifying people.
Oh, like an early detection system, early warning detection system.
Exactly. So that way you don't have like, 6 months later, you're like, what is that stain on top of my ceiling? Right?
By then it's too late.
It's too late. It's obviously something already happened, and that's going to impact your insurance and so on and so on. Another one is, for example, inside of your home. There are developers now that is offering, because of COVID, where we came from, like, oh, we have like this steam cleaner closets that will kill all the bacteria and all that stuff for you right by the entrance or something like that. And some people might really like it. Another one that's kind of newer is I'm seeing that there's a lot of projects now where you don't actually have to press the elevator anymore to reduce the amount of touching in public.
Yeah.
You do everything on your phone, and then everything just
it
automatically just kind of happen. And that is also true with some of the newer amenities for new buildings that older buildings absolutely don't have. The newest concept for a development, well, it's not even that new anymore, it's probably like a year and a half, is this co-working space, WeWorks. Instead of you actually going to WeWorks, and a lot of people work from home now still, well, there's already a kind of like a pre-built WeWork within your building. It comes with full Wi-Fi. It comes with some of them comes with like individual booths and stuff like that, and you could just work down there instead of working in your apartment. Like it's like you never.
So they basically transfer their amenity lounge room into little WeWork spaces.
Exactly, and those are the kind of like the newer amenities that people really generally like. Right. Another reason why some people like to get into pre-sale is the fact that it's a peace of mind. And when I mean peace of mind, there's two things I'm talking about. The first thing I'm talking about is new home warranty, the 2510. Yeah.
You want to quickly touch on that?
Okay, so the 2510, guys, just quickly, 2 years is on the labor, 5 years is on the envelope, water penetration basically, and 10 years is on the foundation and the structure of the building. Okay. So that's a good peace of mind. The second reason why I say peace of mind is that when the building is about to be done, you don't have an inspection, you get a deficiency walkthrough. Now the biggest difference, we had a whole episode about inspection, and the key thing is the seller doesn't have to agree on fixing anything. It's depending on the market who has position of strength. Well, for developers, they have to do the deficiency walkthrough. It's law.
Yep.
And with the deficiency walkthrough, they will have to fix it, which is great. And it's definitely more detailed. Like you can literally go, that's dirty, that's scratched, that's not working, that has a little bit too much glue. And like as long as within 6 feet and you can see, the developer's job is they'll fix it.
Yeah.
Now, if they fix it before completion or after completion, that's a completely different story. Okay? So a lot of people like that because they don't have to worry about, oh, I mean, like, what am I gonna do with this baseboard? Like it's a little bit, dented, it doesn't look nice or what have you. And that's the reason why some people just go, you know what, I'll buy a pre-sale, I don't have to deal with it. Even if I do the damages, I know I did it, not you did it.
100%. And I think there's two more things. One is really attractive is the deposit structure.
That's right. So thanks for bringing that out. That's actually the reason why a lot of our friends bought back in the days is because
5% now, 5% later, then final 10%.
Yeah, exactly. So for people, like especially for first-time home buyers, as their career is taking off, they might not have 20% right now. Maybe they only have 10% right now. And they could go buy a resale with 10%, by the way, but they just don't want to pay for the CMHC insurance. So what they'll do is I'll go buy a pre-sale. I get to enjoy everything, all the benefit that I just talked about. And then on top of that, as they're building, I'm saving for more deposits. And then by the time it's done, then I have my 20% down. I gave it to you in all separate times, and I approve a mortgage. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Right. So that is definitely one of the main reasons, at least back in the days, a lot of first-time home buyers would buy into pre-sale. Now, since we're on this topic, I'll just kind of add on to that as well, is that because some pre-sales, it's much longer in terms of completion. Some people might buy into pre-sale because they currently don't have the status. What I'm really talking about is foreigners. Right? We all know that, I think it was 2017 that they introduced the foreign buyer tax from property transfer tax, which is 15%, and then it got raised up to 20%. Well, what these people, if they know that they're gonna get their PR within the next year or within the next 3, then why not just buy a pre-sale? Yes, you do pay a little bit more deposit. Most developers now, they do want foreigners to pay a little bit more deposit for I guess, risk aversion, I guess.
Yeah.
But of course, they don't mind paying for it, and then they understand that by the time the building is done, I don't have to pay for the 20% foreign property transfer tax anymore.
You must be talking about the 400,000 immigrants we're getting in the next year, right?
Yeah, or the 1.2 million people that's coming into Canada within the next 3. Right, so that's another one. And I guess the last one is, especially if you're buying into condos and townhouses, you don't, I guess for pre-sales, especially I guess in the market that we just came from, the last 2 years, where all the resales are just bidding. Right? The asking price might be $799, but then by the time all the bidding is done, you might be paying $899 for it.
Yeah.
Whereas in pre-sale, you don't have that. All you need is access. Now, this is a whole conversation altogether. I don't want to get into the details of who gets access, who doesn't get access, and all that stuff. But as long as you have access,
the price is the price.
The price is the price. $799 is not going to turn into $899. It will be like, Jeff, I have 1301. Do you want it? $799. If you say yes, I want it, you're paying $799. You're not going to end up paying $899 because I want it and that guy wants it and this lady wants it too.
Well, yeah, and like you said, like in a hot market where people are going into these bidding situations, some people are tired of bidding, not getting it, so they just go to and gravitate towards a pre-sale.
Yeah.
But that access is also not as easy as it sounds sometimes. I remember when you were in pre-sales, I remember the days where people would have to line up for 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights in order to get a ticket into the pre-sale center.
That's right.
To potentially get a unit.
That's right. And then obviously some developers, they're trying to avoid that now. Maybe they use different systems. I think some of them are like lotto systems, kind of like, new easy drops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some developers use that concept now. Some developers still really use the relationship building between some specific realtors and stuff like that. But once again, I'm not going to dive all the way into that portion of things. But ultimately, just understand in a hot market, some people might just be so fed up with multiple offers that they'd rather just buy a pre-sale.
I think the biggest draw right now for me to purchase a pre-sale would be if I was looking in a neighborhood like that pre-sale project we got invited to in South Granville. I don't really see a lot of new buildings in South Granville. So the one that we saw particularly, they had like a concave balcony where it goes into the unit instead of sticking out. Desirable neighborhood, close to the future Broadway extension. Like those are all things that would draw me to a pre-sale project like that. But why don't we talk a little bit about like the drawbacks, or pitfalls of resales as well as pre-sales?
Yeah, I mean, resales, let's start from resale because resale is easy. It's easier, I guess. It's not easy, it's easier. Number one is just do your inspection. I mean, we had a whole podcast talking about inspection.
And if you guys still don't do inspections when you're buying a property, then God help you.
Yeah, honestly. Because with resale, especially the ones that people have lived in it before, like 99.99% of them, you really need to understand like what's behind the walls, what's behind, underneath the cabinet, like what is the system, how is your mechanical system. A lot of people when they look for single detached houses, it's like, where's your furnace, where's your hot water tank, how is your roof. Like you need to understand all of this.
And also like how's your heat delivered? Is it a heat pump? Is it baseboard? Is it geothermal?
And is it working? Most importantly, the working, right? And that's kind of the first thing. And of course, if you're buying into a townhouse or condo or anything stratified, then it's very, very important, aside from just learning about the inside of your home, is also you got to learn about the building. Like you have to read through the strata document. You have to have a full understanding. Is the strata proactive? Does the strata have a lot of contingency ready if anything were to happen? Do they have a depreciation report? Do I know when roughly they're going to start doing all the repairs? So I could save money on the side as well for this potential special levy and all that stuff. Okay? And then of course, another thing might be like, what kind of bylaw they might have that might impact my decision making. Right? For example, this is a rule that actually secretly passed a while ago, and a lot of people don't talk about it, is that any home that's built after 2010 actually, 2010, they can't restrict rentals anymore. They could restrict like short-term rentals like the duration,
but they can't restrict the number.
Yeah, exactly. They just can't be like, oh, no rentals, period. They can't do that anymore. Right? So that's another thing. So for example, if your plan is to buy this home and then maybe say, I want to move down to California, maybe like 5 years out, but I don't want to sell this. I want to rent it out because Vancouver is just such a nice place and maybe I want to come back one day. Well, if the strata bylaw says rental is not allowed because you bought into a home that's built before 2010, well, you gotta take that into consideration, right? So those are just kind of the resale things I would say that definitely be careful of.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what about the pre-sales?
Well, then this gets into kind of the lengthy part.
Yeah.
I'll say it again, and I say this all the time. When you buy pre-sale, you're really putting a lot of trust in the developer. However, like we always say, developer is literally not the ones on their knees.
Yeah, hammering everything together,
Putting it, they outsource everything, right? So what I'm trying to say is because they outsource everything, there is going to be variances. But let's not talk about that. Before that though, I want to just start with an easier variance for people to understand, and then we'll kind of slowly build it up in terms of like, importance, right? The first variance when you buy pre-sale, at least for stratified homes, condos, specifically I guess condos, is you'll realize that the developer will never tell you where your parking is, and they'll never tell you where your storage locker is. And I'm gonna stand on the developer side on this. Is they're not trying to be difficult, Jeff, for developers. Their hands are tied because if they overpromise you, and then when they're starting to do developments, the city is like, hey, actually, you need to put this here. You got to do that over there. You got to do this over here. You got to put a fan over here for circulations, for health, what have you. Well, that whole plan that they had drafted up in the pre-sale stages, that is just completely out the window. So for example, if I promise you like parking number 74, you bought my penthouse and that's a good parking that you want, but all of a sudden the city is like, number 74, you got to put a fan on top. What now?
Yeah.
What now? Right?
Or let's say I wanted to stall right next to the parking elevator and now that stall's moved on the other end of the parking lot. I'd be pissed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So to the best of my understanding, at least, just for developers to be fair, what they generally do is they like to kind of allocate parking and storage locker based on price points. Okay. So a penthouse should have better parking than a 3-bedroom, which should have a better parking than a 2-bedroom, which should have a better parking than a 1-bedroom, which should have a better parking than a studio. This is just kind of the way they do it to make sure that no one gets angry.
Yeah, that sounds like the most fair, and they're also kind of managing expectations for the consumer and protecting themselves at the same time.
Exactly. However, the term good or better, it's once again, it's a subjective thing. Like, 3-bedroom, or maybe I bought a penthouse, maybe they're nice enough to allocate all my parking, say, right beside the elevator. But for some god reason, I don't want my parking beside all the elevator because that has the most amount of foot traffic. But the developer's like, I did you a solid.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And I mean, that's obviously the extreme. The more non-extreme is like, I don't like my parking beside a wall. I don't like my parking beside 2 cars. But on the flip side, some people are like, I don't want my parking by the pillar. Like, you can see how complicated this could get.
Yeah.
And this is also the main reason why they don't make exceptions on this unless you're really connected, right? Because if they start to make exceptions, they're just ultimately going to make their own job more difficult.
Yeah, and there's already so much that comes into play when you're trying to build a development, especially when it's like 200, 300, 400 units.
Exactly. Now the second, I guess, variance is, of course, the floor plan and the actual suite. For some reason, when we're looking at a floor plan, we can understand it. But then once we get into the actual suite, like, there's so many times where it's just like, I didn't know that this was
going to be here, or
yeah,
this is going to look like this.
Yeah, on a floor plan, it looked like this made sense, but in real life, it didn't. So once again, that's another variance. And of course, getting into the extreme situation, I also have heard of situations where it's like, you bought a 2-bedroom, but then because a couple of things need to move, that 2-bedroom all of a sudden became a 1+ den. You lost a closet for some reason. Yeah. Right? And that's the variance that we were talking about. It's getting pretty serious. Now let's talk about the most common variance that you need to consider. when you're buying pre-sale, which is timing.
Ooh, I like this. Completion fall of 2024/spring of 2025. Okay.
Exactly, right? And with completion, this is especially important in today's landscape. We're short on supply, we're short on labor, right? A lot of the projects right now are definitely getting delayed, right? And as an investor, you might not care as much. You're like, well, this is a money play anyways. I don't need to worry all that much.
Yeah.
However, if you're planning to live in this, then, for example, then I would say, are you ready? Should the project delay for 1 year? Are you financially ready, and are you like personal life ready for this delay? Right? I'll give you an example. Currently, I have a client that bought a pre-sale many years ago. It was expected to complete last Christmas, so Christmas of 2021. It is now September of 2022, and the project still hasn't completed. And
are they mortgaging?
There we go. We're also in a rising interest rate environment, so their mortgage application has actually already expired twice. They started at 1% or 1 point something percent, and the latest renewal is 5 point something. So you can see the disappointment because their payment was supposed to be like this, but due to the delay, all of a sudden the payment is now at this. Once again, not a good feeling, and that's the variance that people need to be ready for. Okay. And I have another scenario for a client because the project took about 6 years to build. When they initially built it, there was a family plan saying, hey, mom and dad is gonna sell the house, we're gonna move out, and then mom and dad is gonna, retire, go live somewhere else, and we're on our own.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the project got delayed, but mom and dad still decided to do what they decided to do, right? Now you don't really have a place to stay. But when you first initially bought the pre-sale, everything was aligning that this is gonna work out perfectly. Now the variance happened. Are you ready to deal with it? Do you have another place to stay? And are you gonna deal with short-term rentals and stuff like that?
So it sounds like they were really relying on everything to go right.
Yes.
And everything went wrong.
Yes, basically. Basically, yes, that's what I would say, right? And that's the reason why I would say, buyers for pre-sale definitely has to be a little bit more fluid in regards to that. Right. What else do I really want to talk about? I think this is now the perfect timing to talk about the worst case scenario in terms of completion, which is there is no completion. Because what I'm trying to say is the project never got built or still hasn't started the construction.
I think I know which project you're talking about. And I think most of our listeners here, if you're in the real estate market, you're probably going to be aware of what we're talking about as well.
Exactly. Now, unfortunately, I do know people that have purchased in those projects that, I think we're thinking about the same project here. They didn't buy it for investment. They bought it to live in. They're a first-time home buyer. They had their life plan all set up. They were about to get married after the home is done. Kids, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's been X amount of years and nothing has happened. Like it still hasn't started construction because the pricing at that point was too good to be true, which I'll cover very quickly after this, right? After this story. What are they supposed to do? By 2022, I remember talking to them, this is the year they're supposed to get married. They haven't got married. And they were telling me that by 2024, they want to have a kid. Well, but I don't think the home isn't even going to be done by 2024. And don't forget, they're currently renting. And the rental market, as per our market update, is just going like that. So you can imagine their whole lifestyle literally just got changed upside down from what they initially planned out.
Well, them and hundreds of other people that bought into that project.
Correct. So that's kind of literally when we talk about pre-sale, not just in Canada, globally, when people have concerns, this is that worst case scenario concern because your money is stuck. So you can't just give me the money, I want to go buy something else. I want to buy your project. You can't because law, contract law, the money just sits in the interest there. You don't have more money to buy that, but then you're seeing the prices just continue to go up like that. So at that point, if they just give me back the deposit, my purchasing power just decreased by 35%.
Yeah, I saved for 5 years to put a down payment on this pre-sale project. Now, we're not trying to scare you guys here. Situations like this are few and far between, but we need you guys to know that this is a possibility, no matter how slim. how can we prevent this from happening? What are some things that, you know, the consumer can do or the realtors can do to make sure that they avoid situations like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's no one answer that will be like, oh yeah, you do this and everything will be fine. But there are things that you definitely could do. First thing is read that disclosure statement. When you buy pre-sale, if you haven't bought pre-sale before, you do get a disclosure statement. Some of them are like 300 pages, some of them are like 100 something pages. I think the first 20 pages of the disclosure statement is what people generally don't talk about. The first 20 pages of the disclosure statement, I personally feel like is extremely important. It's probably the most important thing because it talks a little bit about the developer and all the directors, well, at least some of the main directors there. How many experience they have. Have they ever been sued? Have they currently filed for bankruptcy before? Like they will state it right out there for you to understand, hey, look, like these are our experiences. If you ever read a disclosure statement, especially for a master plan community, and then they go, oh, our directors have like 5 years of experience or maybe 3 years of experience, and then our company has been, was established in, I don't know, let's say 2018, well, it should get your brain to start moving like, well, how can I do this with no experience? Well, being in Canada for maybe not particularly long time, or maybe the company hasn't even been around for that long of a time.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we all know nobody likes to read like that type of material more than they have to, but that's why REDMA has that rescission period. It's to give buyers a chance to go through these documents, do their due diligence, so they don't run into situations like this.
Correct. Now, let's say that you read the disclosure statement and it seems like everything is okay. Well, the other thing that I would say this becomes really important, and once again, I think this is the third time I'm saying in this podcast, is that the developer reputation is very, very, very important because you're putting a lot of trust into the developer once again. So you definitely need to do your research on the developer. Now, once again, this is not the best answer.
Yeah, we're not saying that new developers are bad and like old established developers are always the best. There's always one-offs, right?
Exactly. And I'm not trying to say big developers equals quality construction, small developers equals poor construction. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is just if you see a particular developer that if you ask around, there's problems here, problems there, well, the chances of having another problem in your project that you want to buy is probably relatively higher. So, and on the flip side, if you ask this person, you ask that, oh yeah, no, this is a great developer. My experience was great. The customer service team is awesome, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's probably going to remain the same because that's the core concept of their business.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that that's kind of the second thing that you can definitely do in regards to kind of avoiding yourself out of this situation.
Well, you also talked about if things are too good to be true.
That's right. So since we already talked about kind of, the worst case scenario, one of the major things in real estate, resale and pre-sale, I would say both, is there is this term of too good to be true is extremely, well, I guess alive, right? Because developers, I guess in a way, is that they are a corporation, they're a business.
And they're in business to make money for themselves.
That's right. And that's why their best interest is it's the top interest. I'm not going to say the only interest, right? And the contract that you sign in the pre-sale center, just remember that contract was written by the developer's lawyer and reviewed by the real estate superintendent of real estate. Well, if it's drafted by the lawyer that represents the developer, where do you think the contract is going to lie in terms of favorism? Right? So just understand those concepts, and obviously, if you feel like something is just a little bit off, most likely something is a little bit off, right? Yeah. So those are kind of the things that I would say as the pitfall and the variance of pre-sale. But of course, you can hear the overall concept about pre-sale is that if you want to buy pre-sale, you better have plan B, plan C, plan D all prepared. Yeah,
because you're buying 3 to 5 years in the future, and
there's some that's 7 now in the future.
And there's a saying that you never know what tomorrow brings. Like think about the last 3 years. How big of a change that we have gone through globally in everyone's lives. Everything has changed.
Right.
So bear in mind, you know. And remember, we've only scratched the surface of this, all the subtle nuances of pre-sales and the resale market. You should still always consult a professional, and if you have questions, like, you know, contact Joe and I. You know how to get a hold of us. And I think that like kind of covers everything that we had on the docket today.
I think so. I mean, like you said, we're just scratching the surface. I mean, if we want to dive a little bit more, we could spend hours literally talking about, oh, be careful this, be careful that. Oh, this is great, that's great. But then again, if you want to learn a little bit more, please just get in touch with us.
Yeah, and I think by now you guys should know that my name is Jeff.
And my name is Joe.
And we are the mic for Vancouver Real Estate. We really appreciate the support that you guys give us. And, you know, every time you guys leave us a comment, a like, a subscribe, it definitely motivates us to keep these podcasts going and helps us think of more content to provide to you guys.
Please, of course. And like I always like to say is, please help us with the algorithm. It just kind of spreads to more people that would find our information useful. Yeah.
With that being said, Joe and I wish you guys a wonderful week ahead, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye, guys.
See ya.